Hello everybody and welcome. This is my new daily driver, a 2014 Renault Scenic Mark III. Well, it is not exactly new because I've bought this car back in May, so I've had it for about 5 months, but I have been so busy that I didn't have any chance to do any filming about this car. And so far, so good. So let's just go through a bit of how it is to live with a Mark III Renault Scenic. So this is the third generation of the Renault Scenic, and which was launched in 1996. And Renault basically were the pioneers of the compact multi-purpose vehicle, or MPV, or people carrier, as many people would like to call it. We know that styling and taste are something of a personal matter, therefore very subjective. But the Scenic, it's actually not a bad looking car. It actually does not have a bad side profile. The front is actually very good looking, but it's here at the rear that I think things don't really quite add up. I do have a personal feeling that the shape looks a little bit odd, but it is very typical of most MPVs and crossovers that were built in the last 25 years. The reason why I bought this car initially was because I needed a little bit more of extra room, extra boot space, and a bit more practical in order to put our daughter in and out of the car. Basically more practicality, something that the Focus didn't really quite fit the bill at the time. But did I make a good choice? We'll find out later. The MPVs sold on their practicality with wide opening doors, front and back, and also very easily accessible, wide opening, making the entry and exiting actually fairly easy. Also having a bigger boot added to their bill. There was even some versions that also have 2 additional seats called the Grand Scenic. The interior is actually quite nicely appointed, good quality materials, everything within reach, easy to access controls, plenty of headroom, and also quite wide space as well. This car is actually very easy to get in and out, and you can see a huge load of instrumentation. You have all the radio controls in here, which can be displayed on the multifunctional display, and your aircon and ventilation controls as well. Fairly easy to use, within reach, and easy to read. The only criticism I have on this car is indicator stalks. From where I'm sitting, they are not really that massively easy to see, and especially the radio controls are hidden quite behind the steering wheel. But once you use the car, you get used to it, and you will know by feeling where the controls are. The TFT screen is also another thing introduced with the Scenic 3. At the time, not many cars have multifunction screens like these ones, but this was an innovation. Also on the side, you have a separate unit for the sat-nav. Of course, it was very avant-garde back then, but today it is a little bit behind the times. Everyone uses phones these days, but the controls can still be seen in here, and the map can be still updated by updating the USB card. SD card, I mean. It would not be a proper MPV if it wasn't for its cubby holes and storage space. For example, on this one, you can find under each seat a tray to store everything. You can put actually a liter of bottle on the door pockets, at the front and the back. And also you can find more storage space under the floors, like this one here, for example. Plenty of stuff to do and plenty of dirt to go in. Another useful feature that many MPVs have, and the Scenic is no exception, is to have this second rear view mirror. Practical for when you want to see what your kids are up to at the back. The seats are nice, comfortable, supported, plenty of regulation, and the economics is actually not too bad. Everything is pretty much at hand. But there is one thing that I really don't like, and it's the cruise control, which has this button located in this area, plus the the rest of the controls on the steering wheel. Why couldn't they put everything in just one place? Other advanced feature that this car has is the electric parking brake. I'm not really a big fan of it, to be honest, not because it's in this car, but general electronic parking brakes in general. I prefer the manual handle. Sometimes can be a little bit jerky because it does have the hill control, but other than that, it does work well. I'm just not too keen on it. At the back, there is also plenty of legroom, and I particularly like these little tables. Actually, can be very useful. Extra pockets at the top and at the bottom, more storage space, and I'm particularly fond of these ones, and it's these shades. I don't have to faff around with those suction pad shades that you find in Halfords. Seats are pretty much comfortable, and I do like the fact that it has ventilation that can be put towards the rear passengers. Very good. Three people can sit here at the back, and even two of us plus a baby here on the side, it's actually not too cramped. The other good thing is plenty of headroom, which is very useful. Sometimes in certain cars they are not as wide. It feels quite cramped when the roofline is actually too low. It feels claustrophobic. But with these ones, it feels pretty all right. The seats are individually very versatile. You can slide them forwards and backwards, and you can also, let me try to find the correct lever, for them like that, or you can just simply do this and then you get a massive boot space. But it can get even bigger after you pull a couple more levers and actually take the whole seats completely. You can basically make this into a minivan. Easy. The boot is actually very practical. Not only you have a wide space in terms of height, it's also in terms of width. You can just shove a lot of crap inside and then forget about it. The trouble is, with someone like me, the more space you've got, the more shit you put inside your car, which is not good. But just like any other car, the parcel shelf is removable. I don't think I'm not going to bother now. And with the rear seats also completely removed, you will have a huge loading area. There's also the bigger version, the Grand Scenic, which is a little bit longer wheelbase, and two extra additional seats at the back. But they are so small, it's only really good if you have been busy and have more children than anyone else. So, what's it like to drive? It actually drives nicely. It is comfortable. It is quiet. The engine is very low noise at motorway speeds. Not much in terms of wind noise. It's actually pretty quiet and comfortable. It does pull well. It actually has everything to be a good family car. So let's just go for a quick drive. Renault have introduced these card keys for a number of years, and this one is a keyless system. Basically, you don't have to introduce it anywhere in order to start the car. Basically, the proximity, press the brake pedal, and away we go. There's the resistance, and it starts up no problem at all. It's actually quite a smooth engine. I actually do really enjoy it. Oops, radio off, and electric parking brake off, and away we go. Very easily, nice, easily to pull. And this car also benefits from electric power steering, which is very light at parking speeds, and it's progressive, so it gets heavier when the speeds go higher. Pulls very nicely, absolutely effortless. This car comes with a 1.5 DCI engine, which has been applied to many other Renault models, also from Dacia, and I think Mercedes as well. The visibility in this car is really, really good. You do have big windows all around, which is something a bit of a premium on cars these days. The visibility is actually not that great. But in this one, despite the small rear window, you can actually see pretty well, even on the corners. It's a car very easy to drive, and with the space that you get in the cabin, it actually makes for a pleasant driving experience. Now that I am on the motorway and I'm doing just under 70 miles an hour, the noise is actually kept to a minimum. I can barely hear the engine, and I'm now on 6 speed. It cruises effortlessly. Even when I have the car full of people, it just does the job very well. And the fact that it has a 6 speed, it does deliver actually plenty of good fuel economy. I get on my daily commute, in the Focus I used to get something between 39 and 40 miles to the gallon. With this one I got nearly 50, which is really good for a car that is actually much heavier than the Focus was, and I usually carry more stuff in it as well. In terms of chassis and handling, let's not forget that this is a taller and a wider car. It's not a hatchback. It's not built for handling and twisty country lanes or going around the Nürburgring. This is a car to use primarily for long trips and school runs, basically a family car. But it doesn't really drive that bad. It actually, let's face it, it does drive well, but it doesn't have the driving dynamics from C-Max or even Ford S-Max. But it drives as you expect on an MPV. This car also comes with auto start stop, which happens quite often. Sometimes I find it does kick in a little bit too early, and which makes sometimes the pulling away from junctions or traffic lights a little bit too jerky. But you can switch it off. But the button is not really that visible. But apart from that, it actually works all right. In terms of equipment, it does have a decent sound system. It doesn't have, sadly, DAB radio, which seems to be the standard these days, but it does come with a decent CD player. Well, I still got plenty of CDs. It comes with auxiliary jack, USB, and the best of all, it comes with Bluetooth, where you can stream your favorite music or use it for phone calls. Now I'm pulling in 6 at 60 miles an hour, and we're already at 70. It does pull really well, and the brakes do work, especially if a Git in front of you decides to pull to overtake a motorbike. Seriously? So, what's it like to park? It's actually very easy to park this car. The fact that it has a front and rear parking sensors does help, although this particular model, they don't work, and for some reason the previous owner put aftermarket rear parking sensors. But because of the good all-round visibility and the fact that it has a flat rear end, it does really help with parking. And it is what you really need these days, where parking spaces are so small and the cars are getting bigger. So, what's my verdict? It is a good family car. It is spacious, it is practical, it is versatile, good fuel economy, it is not expensive to run, everything that you need for the modern family man. Except the modern family person has changed these days. The MPVs have fell out of favor, and all started with the introduction of the Nissan Qashqai back in 2008. Suddenly everyone wanted an SUV, despite being less spacious inside compared to an MPV, less boot space, basically a jacked up hatchback. And these cars have slowly started to disappear, to the fact that hardly anyone these days makes people carriers, and everyone does SUVs. Even hatchbacks are now going out of fashion, which is a pity. However, there is another thing. Was this a good choice to make of a car? I think it was. But this is not the car for me. It's just not me. Uh, Many years ago, I used to be a hardcore saloon kind of guy. It was my favorite type of car, and hatchbacks as well. I only have a handful of them in the last few years. But I do still miss the way the Focus drives, even though it is less practical than this one. I do not like this car.
You think you hate it now, but wait till you drive it.
It's nothing about its fundamentals, such as practicality and so on. It's actually a good car, but just not for me. And not longer after I've bought it, I've just simply never gelled with it. And I would like to get something else now, but let's see how it goes. Was it a mistake to get? No, I don't really think so. Sometimes we have to try something different to make sure that we like it. And although at the beginning I thought this would be good for me, uh, it isn't. It's just not my cup of tea, MPVs, unfortunately. And in a way, I understand why a lot of people have gone for SUVs. They are not my cup of tea, although I do like a handful of them. I just rather have an estate or a hatchback for that matter. And that's what I think I will get next time. So, that's it. Is this a good car to get? Yes, it is. If this is your sort of thing, it is practical, economical, spacious. It does everything that a family person needs, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. And that's the case for me. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.